Welcome to Speak Out Charlotte. I'm your host, Jim Puckett. Thanks for joining us tonight. We get together every Tuesday night to talk with people who are involved in Charlotte-Mecklenburg region to talk about the challenges we have, the opportunities we have, and any general information that we think will make your life and you a better informed person. Thanks for joining us this evening. I've got one of my favorite guests with us tonight, Wayne Powers. Wayne has an interesting resume. He's an actor, a businessman, now a politician, talk show host. There's a few others. I'm trying to think what they are.
Well, we won't mention them on the air, though. That's right. I want to stay
Those are the respectable ones, are they?
I want to stay at liberty, as they say.
There you go. So this politician thing, when is kind of
I don't know if
recently found.
I don't know if it's politician, Jim. It's more public service, and there's a big difference, I think. I've always been politically active since I was a little boy, actually, and it was my rebellion, because my parents weren't, so I was the politically active one, and my parents were Democrats, so I became a Republican. That was my rebellion. And but I've always been very politically active, and I've lived in Charlotte for 19 years, and as you well know, I have a very big mouth. I've been politically active and opinionated and in public for the entire 19 years I've lived here, but I've never run for office. And I decided that this election coming up, Jim, is so important that I've been talking a good game for a long time, but when it comes time down to it, will I be able to stand up and make a difference? And it came down to if I don't, who else is going to? I didn't see anybody else standing up. Right. And so I said, well, maybe it's my turn. So I literally quit the bench at WBT because I had to in order to run for office because of equal time restrictions. And so I'm making a huge sacrifice and a commitment to do it. But I love Charlotte. I love Mecklenburg County. I chose to live here 19 years ago. I could have lived anywhere. Right. Yeah, I chose this place to live. I wanted my children to get to be raised here, and they have been. And I love this area, and I see it going down the wrong path, to be honest with you. And I don't see anybody putting on the brakes. I don't see the people standing up and getting organized and making a difference. And so you see our city and our county trending in the wrong direction. And there comes a time when you say, okay, either I join the fleeing tax base or I stand up and be counted. And so it's my turn to stand up and be counted. And I'm hoping that enough people will stand up with me and know that I can also be counted upon.
Well, and that's vitally important. That's why I appreciate what you're doing and being on, and why it's so important to me that you get your message out. I did the same thing about 14 or 15 years ago. I got to where I was making a lot of noise and wasn't real happy, and decided, you know what, and then you may as well go do something about it. It's amazing, and particularly when you're in public office, the number of people you hear from who are outraged, the number of people that have these great ideas, the number of people who call you up and tell you what you need to be doing, and then when you turn around and go, you know what, you're well informed, you've got the passion, you need to go out there and do it, and they just don't. And I won't name names, but there's 3 or 4 folks that have been, that I would love to see run for office. Yeah. Brilliant minds, but they just say, that's not for me, I'm not a politician. And you're right. I mean, at some point, a politician is merely someone who gets into politics. It doesn't change who you are. Well,
the word politician, the term, has gotten negative connotations because of the abuse of the process. When I judge candidates, one of the things, there are a lot of ways I judge candidates, not only political philosophy, even record and who they are, but I always wind up asking one question. Why are they running? Right. Why are they running for public office? Are they running for public service, or are they running for self-service? And that's a key question to me. And you can usually tell. You kind of get an idea when it's all about me and all my stuff and how great I am. There's a certain narcissism that comes with that is, I think, unhealthy to the process, and it's what corrupts the process. It's why people say one thing on the campaign trail, get into office, and they do something very different, and consequently, the public gets disenchanted, and they wind up not going to vote because What difference does it make? They're all crooks. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. They're going to line their own pockets. They're in it for the notoriety. They're in it for the, I didn't have to quit WBT to run for public office to see my name in the newspaper.
Right, exactly.
I mean?
It went the other way around.
Well, exactly, because you get buried in this political climate with an office that's so far down ballot.
Right.
When it's a presidential year. Literally, I had much more media time before I started running for office than I do now.
Well, and I think you're exactly right, because the problem with why people run and the people that you really want to support, and this really goes even against just parties, are the ones that I think sometimes they're a single issue person, only because that's what got them out of the neighborhood and into politics. But it is a public service, or it is a passion to have an impact, versus the people that just want to run for office.
Right.
It's those that just want to run for office that end up being the John Edwards and the Jim Blacks and the ones that are looking for the notoriety, because you get it. Once you get elected, people will tell you you're the smartest, best thing that ever came down the pike. And if that's what you're looking for, you end up owned by it. That's the problem. What you want is the people that went, nobody else showed up, I can do it, or by golly, I'm mad enough about this that I'm just going to go out and do something about it. And they're not the ones that get turned.
You hit on something it's more psychological, philosophical, talking about humanity than politics. And I don't want to get too distracted, but it's a really important point. And I've spent my entire life in show business or in the public eye. For 20 years I was on network television. If y'all want to, what camera are we on? Are we here? Where are we? We're there. If you want to go to www.waynepowers.com, there's more stuff on there than my mom wants to know about me. There's pictures on there and all that stuff. For 20 years, I was Laverne and Shirley and network television shows, my own series for 2 years. I did all that. Before that, I was in St. Louis, Missouri. And I was on local television news and radio and nightclubs and entertainment there. And I learned a very valuable lesson there, Jim, and it's something that I've always carried with me. Here, all these years later, and it's more years later than I'll admit to, but I had a friend, I was on television, I was on the radio, I was in nightclubs, I was public appearances. I couldn't go anywhere without people recognizing me. I couldn't go anywhere without people saying, can I get our picture taken, or can I get an autograph? And I was in my early 20s. That kind of went to my head.
Sure.
And I started believing my own press releases, as they say. And I had my best friend at the time, who incidentally, all these years later, is still one of my very best friends. But he took me aside and he said, Wayne, he said, I don't think we're going to be hanging out anymore. I said, what do you mean? We have a great time hanging out. He said, I don't like who you've become. Well, you could have knocked me over with a feather. And I took it to heart. He told me what he was talking about, and I really listened to him, and I gave it some real serious thought. And I learned that lesson being a big fish in a small pond. So when I went to Los Angeles for 20 years, I had already learned that lesson, that it's not all about you, Powers. That you have a gift, you have a talent, you have a skill, you have a job to do. Do the job to the best of your ability. And that's what you're here to do. It's not about how great you are or anything else. It's just a job like any other job. And I learned that lesson real early, and I've never had to learn it again. I'm real grateful to my friend Patrick all these years later because that lesson has stayed with me.
Well, it is vital that people understand, particularly in elected office, because let me tell you, the one thing that I learned very quickly, and it was a huge asset for me, was that the bureaucracy, the government, the staff, the people who really run government. I say the thing I learned two things right up front. Once you get elected to office, you realize that you have very little power. The real power lies in the folks that were there before you got there and are going to be there after you go, and that's the paid staff. In the county side, it's the county manager. It's the folks who are in charge of those departments.
Finance director, budget director.
Yep. All of those people, they really have the power. Now, what they do is they figure out how to use you best. And if you don't get swept up in that, if you remember that the voters put you there and the voters can take you out, and it's your job to battle those folks in a polite way, then you'll be okay, because the system will try and sway you over. And I tell people all the time, it's a little teeny thing. I went on the Board of Education in 1997. It was at the height, it was right at the beginning of when we were going back into federal court, and we were busing, we were reassigning, hard to believe now, we were reassigning 40 to 45,000 kids a year. We were taking them out of one school and putting them in another. And we would ride around the county letting parents have their 3 minutes. You've been doing 3 minutes in front of folks a lot lately. They come up, and there would literally be hundreds. We would sit there for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time listening to people give 3-minute pleas as to why not to take Johnny from school A and put him in school B. And what happened was the bureaucracy, every time that I went around the county, whatever high school I went to, when I showed up, my table was there, literally my chair that came from the Ed Center was there. There was a bowl of M&Ms, there was a bowl of peanuts, and I had something to drink. And I quickly realized I'm the Queen of England. Everywhere I go, my throne follows me around. I have my snacks everywhere, and it's staff. And what staff's doing is they're making you fat and comfortable, and you quickly get to where you like that.
Yep.
And they're telling you're smart, and the people are telling you're smart, and you have to, and I remember quickly going in, Eric Smith was the superintendent at that time, and I remember walking in and going, Eric, I just want you to understand, nothing personal, my job is to debate everything you do. Even if I agree with
Yep.
it, the public put me here to put a stop.
In those days,
You're
Jim,
just having a free hand.
in those days, Jim, I was one of the parents that spoke up. I didn't know you then.
Right.
I was one of the parents that spoke up. You and Vil Malik, who were both on the Board of Education then, and I spoke up, I think, at South Mac High School. Spoke up for my children. You know, again, big mouth. My big mouth goes back a lot of years, buddy.
But you find that if you let that ego get in the way, it will be used against you. Once you begin to believe your press,
You're exactly right.
trust me, the public will use you. They'll tell you whatever you need to have. Staff will
Well,
start
again,
to
then
use
you're
you.
you're involved in self-service, not public
That's
service,
exactly
and
right.
it's public service, and that's really what it needs to be. And you mentioned the staff, city and county. You know, people don't realize what what you've been saying is that the staff is really a hire of the commission or the city council in the city's case, and the city manager works for the city council. The county manager works for the county commission. Now that manager really runs the county.
Right.
Runs the county with a great staff. Sometimes they do a great job, sometimes not quite so great, but they run the county. Now, their accountability factor is not with the public. The public doesn't get to vote for
Right.
county manager or city manager, but the city council or county commission do. And so it's up to our elected representatives for whom we vote to hold these permanent people, permanent staff, accountable to the public through us. And that's our job. That's our number one job. I spoke on this, Jim, before County Commission just last week. I know this is going to be tape delayed, but go on another website here, folks, www.electwaynepowers.com. That's the campaign website. You'll see some videos up
Right.
there of some of my testimony before City Council and County Commission. I spoke on this very topic on the county budget that we've just was just passed. As we're sitting here today, it was passed last night, and I was there for that meeting. And 1.4 billion with a B, $1 billion budget. It's a lot of money. I'm running for county commission at large, and I, should we kind of let people know how the county commission is broken
Yeah,
down?
probably not a bad idea. We take it for granted
Well,
sometimes.
that people know. County commission is, it's about 1 million people. It's larger than the 9th congressional district or any congressional district. It's huge.
Right.
And it's divided into 6 districts. Now, the 6 districts each get to vote for, wherever you live in the county, you get to vote for your district representative. Well, you also get to vote for, there are 6 district representatives. Now, the way it's set up, 3 of them are kind of safe Democrat seats, 3 are kind of safe Republican seats, and then there are 3 additional seats. Those last 3 seats are called at-large seats. Those seats everybody gets to vote for. The entire county gets to vote for those 3 seats. That's where the majority is formed.
Right.
That's where we will be determining where, whether you pay higher property taxes, where your kids go to school, all these things that, whether we have city-county consolidation, the issues that really impact everyone's lives profoundly, directly, Those issues are
Right.
dealt with on those 3 seats. That
Right.
makes the entire difference. So when you go to vote on November 6th, you're going to be voting for president. You're going to be voting for Congress, governor. You're going to be voting for so many offices. But I will tell you, and I'll tell you that when you press those buttons, the most important button you're going to press, whether you vote for me or not, the most important button you're going to press is County Commission at large.
Yep.
It's going to directly impact your checkbook, where none of these other races will. Whoever runs for Congress, you know, the worst case scenario, Jennifer Roberts gets in.
Right.
I like Jennifer, but I'm certainly not going to vote for her. but that's the worst case scenario. It's not going to really make any difference in your life.
Right.
Because whoever goes into Congress is going to be a freshman congressman with 0 power. Hundreds of congressmen, they're going to be, you know, on the back porch, not on the front porch with the
Right.
barking with the big dogs, you know. So, but county commission at large, profound impact. Next year, how much property taxes are you going to pay? Next year, are we going to get entrenched one-party rule, city-county consolidated government? So many critical issues. So I really, really just want to steer people to think about this race, county commission at large, and think about where you want the direction to go for the future of our county. Because Charlotte, as a city, is now entrenched one-party rule. I
Right.
hate to be the one to break the news to you.
It is.
You know, if you've watched this show regularly, you know Don Reed is a frequent
Sure.
guest. Don Reed was my first endorser of my campaign and a dear friend for almost the entire 19 years I've lived here. Don is a very spectacular guy and a great public servant. But there will never be another Don Reed in the city of Charlotte.
No.
Never.
No.
It is now mathematically impossible because the tax base is fleeing. And the tax base tends to be more Republican than Democrat. It's just a statement of fact. The incoming people coming from the Pacific, from the Northeast, the Rust Belt, they tend to be not people that are part of the tax base, but
Right.
part of people more percentage-wise that are using social services. Businesses are fleeing the tax rate, and so we're becoming more and more of a Democrat city and more of a Democrat county. City is already a lost cause. It's over for the city.
It is.
You'll never see another at-large city councilman who is a conservative Republican. It will now not happen. Well, the trends are the same in the county. And if you look at the county over the next 2 years, you're going to say in 2 years from now, it may be mathematically impossible in the county too. Now, whether you are a conservative Republican or whether you're a middle-of-the-road person, nobody is served when you have entrenched one-party rule. I'd be saying the same thing if we were talking about the Republicans.
Right.
Entrenched one-party rule invites corruption. It invites a lack of accountability. The people's business being done behind closed doors and private meetings and all the stuff that goes on that we hate. And so in order to stop that, you got to make sure that we've got some Republicans in position of power in the county. That's what's going to keep a balance.
And it is vitally important. One of the things when you talk about, we'll be voting for U.S. congressmen, which are one of 336, one of 400, one of 400 people, powerful but still only one vote. The county is one of 9, and you're exactly right. It really is kind of balanced right now, 3 and 3. So that it takes 5 votes. The one thing they teach you early on when you ever get elected is what the majority is.
Yes, sir.
You show up and the answer is, do you think I can? And they go, in the county it takes 5 people. So you literally do have whoever your district person is pretty much ordained. If you live in District 5, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have a Republican. If you live in District 6, you have Bill James. There's not anybody going to run against him. District 1 tends to be Republican.
And we've got some pretty
That's
good
done.
Republicans, especially fiscally, who are running or serving in office currently. And so we're covered, I think, no matter, as we speak now, we're going to have a runoff on the 17th of July, still coming up.
Right.
But no matter where we sit there, I think we're going to be covered. I have a preference. I'm not going to get into that.
Right.
But either one, I think, the community
Right.
will be well served.
But the at-large is where it flips over, and whether you have a Republican majority, and I'll be honest with you, it's even more important, even if you don't have a majority, that you at least have a bigger presence. I've served when there was, all 3 at-large were Democrats, and I'll be honest with you, people are not well served, even the Democrats. It's interesting. I used to love her, the late Valerie Woodard.
Right.
Democrat, I don't think she'd mind me saying this at this point, came to me after I was out of office and a number of times and asked me to run. Because she said, I think you're the only Republican who has a chance of winning an at-large seat. And I said, well, Val, you're a Democrat. She said, the problem is when there's 6 Democrats, they don't need me either. Back in if it's 5-4, then everybody has to negotiate.
Look at city council.
If you get at least a mixture on those at-large folks, then all the Democrats, the district people, they're more powerful because they need that. And you're right.
And you also, getting back to what you were saying earlier about the manager, whether it's the city manager or the county manager, when you have entrenched one-party rule, the manager gets emboldened.
Right.
Look at Kurt Walton in the city.
Right.
You want to hear me rant? Go on that website, electwaynepowers.com, and hear my testimony 2 weeks ago before City Council when I called for his resignation. Because of the audacity of, in this climate, in this economic climate, with joblessness rates at an all-time high, with we're in the midst of the worst recession since the Great Depression of the 1930s. There's a fleeing tax base, sections of the city wanting to secede. I mean, our community is fracturing here, and the answer from the city manager: let's raise taxes.
Right.
8.2%,
right.
Property taxes. On the heels of county tax rates, which have just gone up due to a very sneaky little thing called revaluation, which was a fancy way of saying, let's raise the taxes for 75% of the people.
Well, and an issue that doesn't get a lot of play, but you brought it up, is this whole notion of city-county consolidation. And I will tell you, if you live outside the city of Charlotte, I don't care if you're an ultra-liberal Democrat, an ultra-conservative Republican, you do not want city council and county commission consolidation, because what that is the city of Charlotte running up extraordinarily high bills that they cannot pay for because their tax base isn't there, and saying, I tell you what we'll do, now what we need is we need to get into the pockets of the county. And this is a great year to look at that. The county tax rate is actually going down. Now we can talk about whether your taxes are really going down or not because of revaluation, but as we sit here today, tax rate in the county is going down, tax rate in the city is going up.
But look at why. One of the reasons why is because in the city, you have an emboldened city manager with an entrenched, was it 9-2?
9-2.
9-2 on the. The Republicans haven't got a chance.
Right.
Warren Cooksey and Andy Doolin, all they could do is be a mild irritant. You just smack them down, and it's like, okay, go ahead, make some noise. Are you finished now? We'll do the city's business. They're irrelevant. And no matter how good they may be or not, they're irrelevant because of the numbers. And on the county commission, who have you got? The 3 at-large seats right now. You've got Jennifer Roberts, liberal Democrat. Right. You've got former Sheriff Jim Pendergraph, who's a good Republican, and you've got Harold Cogdell, former Democrat, now an independent, who's kind of fed up with politics. And so what you've had is the Democrats are in a majority, but it's a weak majority because you've had a switch voter in Harold Cogdell who's voted with the Republicans on a number of issues, mostly fiscal issues, and it's been I think he's been a great leader because of that. And my hat's off to Harold Cogdell. I think he's done a great job in bringing that county commission together, stop all the sniping, or discourage it at least, and get some of the county's business done. Consequently, you have a county manager who is responding to that by saying, okay, when I form my budget, I'm going to try and lower the tax rate. I'm going to try and lower property taxes. I'm going to try, and so those things are done. The county manager can read the numbers just like you can and I can. And when he sees that there's not a super majority, he's going to, he or she will respond appropriately.
Oh, absolutely. And I've known Harry Jones for a number of years, and will tell you that he is one of the, he understands that better than anyone, because in the course of it, he's served for Republican majorities, he served for super Democrat majorities.
Yes, he has.
And he does know that he has to be very careful what road he goes down, because the philosophy of the 5 votes can change every other year. I mean, every 2 years, it's but the key to the city, and let's go back and talk about this a second because people don't understand. I think they miss it. What happened with the city, and the reason you have that super majority, is because they changed the districts. When the Democrats kind of got control, and you can rewrite the district lines however you need every 10 years. The city districts used to be relatively balanced. The county districts can just as easily, it's not a given. There's no law that says 3 of them have to be Republican and 3 of them have to be Democrat.
Exactly.
If you end up with 3 district Democrats and 3 at-large Democrats, a 6-3 majority, all of a sudden they go, I tell you what, we can rewrite a couple of those and we can get it, you'll have a 7-2 real quick, because you can very easily rewrite the districts in this county to have 4 Democrat and 2 Republican districts.
And that's when I call the movers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's and
basically it.
Because
It's
then,
over then.
Because
It's
then
over.
because then it is over, because then you have to just numerically you can't get it back. So you're right. It's very, very, very important. We got about 2 minutes left.
Good heavens, where did it go?
It goes quick. It's the most important thing, I think, is for people over the summer not to lose sight of this. They need to pay attention to who's running. You talked about electwaynesowers.com.
Yeah, please.
Great place to go. You'll hear exactly. You're very vocal in what you believe.
Well, yeah, I've been accused of that. I'm a pretty, I'm one of those people with no hidden agenda. I say what I mean what I say. You'll agree with me, you won't agree with me. You're not going to agree with me on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I don't agree with anybody on everything except me.
Right.
I'm the only person I agree with 100% of the time.
And you've changed your mind.
I have occasionally. I sure have.
So
Originally,
you
I
can,
wasn't,
you can argue that even you aren't with you all the time.
originally, I wasn't going to come here today. but the point is that I'm a principled person, and I believe in applying my principles. And if you go to the website, you'll see what those principles are. But number one is transparency. Let's have the people's business being done in the people's presence, period. And accountability. And let's hold our elected officials accountable. And let's have them be doing the people's business. Now, we also need to be inclusive. We need to be able to get along. And you can compromise on things. Don't compromise on principle.
Right.
But compromise, let's work out some deals. It's not, I'm tired of the us and them mentality that's tearing our community apart. We're not getting anything done. Our problems are getting worse instead of better. We have a wonderful place here and we're losing it. And I want to try and help get it back and restore it, because I got kids, I want them to have kids, and I want them all to enjoy this wonderful place we call home.
I agree. I think you're right. In the next 5 years, will determine what our destiny is for the next 50. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever, and that's going to happen at the local level.
And it takes people getting involved. It really does. I know people don't want to hear it. They want to say, oh, well, my vote doesn't make a difference. It really, really does.
It absolutely does. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We'll see you again next Tuesday night.